Revealed, how a heartwarming act of kindness by a waitress changed her life in just 7 days. Sarah wiped a streak of sweat from her brow as the door swung open, sending a chill through the dingy diner. The rain pounded outside, a relentless reminder of the storm within her life. She had just finished a long shift, and her energy was all but spent, yet there she stood, waiting to pour another cup of coffee for a worn-out patron. This was her transition zone, a place where chaos mixed with comfort. Just a typical day at Marla's diner. As the bell dinged, a solitary figure slipped through the door. An elderly veteran, his face lined with tales of hard-fought battles, found his way to her section. The moment their eyes met, Sarah felt a shared heaviness in the air. She approached him, a warm smile plastered on her tired face. "What can I get you today?" she asked, letting the weight of her exhaustion slip away for a moment. He ordered a slice of pie and a coffee, typical small-town fare, yet as she slid the plate in front of him, the softness in his gaze hooked her heart. "You know," he began, "all the right things to say can bring hope." His voice, cracked with age, held a quiet reverence as he recounted daring escapades from his youth, battles fought and sacrifices made, conjuring images of bravery that made Sarah's heart ache. In that moment, it felt like they were both wrestling with their own ghosts, the echoes of PTSD in his eyes and the pockets of worry swelling in the corners of hers. "Life can be real tough at times, can't it?" she whispered, glancing toward the back, where her 2 boys were likely waiting for her at home. She felt like a juggler in a circus, every plate spinning on a stick, a heartbeat away from disaster. The veteran nodded, as if understanding every hidden shadow she dared not speak aloud. Their conversation blurred lines of the past and present, and there was an unspoken bond, 2 souls tethered in a simple diner amid the storms of their lives. Just then, disaster struck a new blow. She received the heartbreaking news that her eldest son had been expelled from school. A misunderstanding fueled by someone's careless words. It was like a punch to the gut, leaving her gasping for air. How could she shoulder the weight of this when the world already felt heavy? "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. Days passed, and while the rain drummed on the roof, she reluctantly signed up for the local talent showcase. The idea felt petrifying, her anxiety bubbled up, threatening to boil over. But the veteran, using the courage he gleaned from battle, had been rallying the community. They were touched by her struggle. The small town, which often felt like a suffocating blanket of defeat, began to buzz with encouragement. Support emerged like wildflowers after a storm, but with hope came tension. The veteran, in his fervor, uncovered a truth from his past that could shake Sarah's reality to its core. As she prepared for the event, her heart pounded, aware that everything was on the line. A family's struggle, 2 different stories converging in a whirlwind of redemption or despair. What awaited her at that showcase? Would it bring healing or heartbreak? Her world hung teetering on the edge. As days turned into a blur of practice sessions, Sarah felt her nerves vibrating like the strings of an old guitar, each rehearsal playing out a melody of fear and hope. She stood before the bathroom mirror, reshaping her thoughts just like the frayed edges of her worries. "What if I fail?" she whispered to her reflection. But just beneath that voice, another one challenged her: "What if you shine?" The night of the showcase arrived, the air thick with excitement and fear. Marla's diner had turned into an unlikely gathering place for the townsfolk, who filled the hard seats with expectant faces, a collage of hope and warmth. Sarah caught snippets of their conversations, laughter mingling with nervous chatter, each soul echoing a kind of solidarity she didn't know she needed. As the spotlight flickered to life, she could see the veteran in the crowd, his face illuminated with pride. He had shared stories that reminded her of the strength hidden beneath layers of hardships. His belief in her had fueled her own, igniting a flicker of courage during their talks. But at that moment, all she felt was a tidal wave of panic. "Next up, we have Sarah," the host announced, snapping her back from her spiraling thoughts. Heart racing, she stepped into the warm center of the stage, every step feeling heavier than the last. The spotlight was stark, a bright white light that illuminated her, leaving all her insecurities on display. She took a deep breath, and the sound of the crowd faded. "This is it," she thought. Etched in her mind was her son's face, filled with uncertainty after the expulsion. She thought of her struggles, the weight of single motherhood, and the comfort the veteran gave her. Music filled the air, and she began to sing. Expectation danced throughout the diner, and she poured her heart into the lyrics. Her voice wavered at first, but as she looked into the audience, she saw not just faces, but allies standing with her. The crowd became her anchor, support wrapped around her like a warm embrace. As she hit the chorus, something shifted. She felt the nerves dissipating, replaced by a wave of energy fueled by her shared struggles. Each note carried her worries away, and for the first time in what felt like eternity, she felt free. The applause began to build, and as she finished, it washed over her like a gentle rain, soothing, affirming. Tears streamed down her cheeks, but they were not of sorrow. They spoke of release, of connections forged in hardship. The veteran was on his feet, cheering, pride shining in his eyes. There was a moment, a heartbeat, where she realized this was more than just a performance, it was a communal act of love, a celebration of resilience. As she stepped off the stage, breath still rapid, Sarah spotted her boys coming toward her, their faces lit with admiration. Then a shadow crossed her mind: what would happen next? How would this moment shift their narrative, and what truth had the veteran kept hidden? The applause was deafening, yet a chill of uncertainty lingered in the back of her mind. What secret from the veteran's past was waiting to unfold, and how would that intertwine with her own journey? The night held deeper revelations than applause, and she sensed that their intertwined fates were only just beginning to unravel. As the applause echoed in her ears, Sarah made her way through the crowd. Each step felt lighter as she met the proud beams of her two boys, their smiles radiant enough to chase away any lingering shadows of doubt. Jake, her younger son, bounced on his toes, excitement spilling from him like an overflowing cup. "Mom, you were amazing!" he shouted, barely able to contain his enthusiasm. Max, older and quieter, nudged his brother playfully, his eyes shining with unshed tears. "Seriously, that was incredible," he said, his voice steady yet filled with emotion. Sarah could hardly believe it. This moment, surrounded by their admiration, was everything she had hoped for, everything she had fought for through sleepless nights and endless rehearsals, but beneath that joy, the shadow lurked. The veteran's gaze lingered in her mind. She felt a pull toward him, an invisible thread weaving their stories together. Deciding to find him, she carved a path through the jubilant crowd. As she approached, the veteran looked up, his weathered face creasing into a smile. "You stole the show tonight, Sarah," he said. "But I think you already knew that deep down." "Did I?" she replied softly, a mix of surprise and sincerity. "It felt different this time. Like I was really connecting with them, with everyone." He nodded, his gaze drifting back to the audience. "You have a gift. And I believe it's time you learn not just to share your voice, but to understand who you really are." "What do you mean?" She leaned closer, curiosity mingled with concern. His expression shifted, shadows trading places with clarity. "Every song you sing has a story. Yours is waiting to be told. But you first need to face your own past." Sarah's heart raced. "My past? Why does that matter?" "Because it shapes you. Just like it shapes me." He paused, the weight of unsaid words hanging in the air like thick fog. "I'll tell you mine if you let me show you how to wrestle with yours." A mixture of fear and intrigue coursed through her. Did she really want to dig into the past? The thought alone sent shivers down her spine. Seeing the determination in the veteran's eyes, she felt her resolve wavering. "Okay," she found herself saying. "Let us talk." The moment she agreed, a flicker of connection sparked between them. But it was tinged with uncertainty. What would this reveal? Was she ready to dig deep? They found a quieter corner of the diner. The dynamic of the room shifted from celebration to something more intimate as Sarah prepared to peel back the layers of her life. Just then, Jake and Max hovered nearby, unable to contain their curiosity. "Can we join?" Jake asked, eyes wide with innocence. "This isn't about you, boys," Sarah began, but the veteran quickly intervened. "Sometimes, children need to hear how strong their parents really are. It's how they grow, too." She hesitated, then nodded slowly, allowing them to sit beside her. The walls felt like they were closing in, emotions thrumming at the surface: fear, uncertainty, but also hope. As she began to share her story, she could feel the connection growing, but an underlying question nagged at her mind. What burdens lay in the tales yet untold? Would she discover a strength within herself she hadn't known existed? The veteraness past could hold the answers, but could she confront her own? In that cocoon of warmth and vulnerability, Sarah knew one thing for certain: this was only the beginning. What awaited her on this journey of revelation was just starting to unfold. The diner buzzed softly, a comforting backdrop to the fragile moment blooming at Sarah's table. Familiar faces of friends and strangers alike surrounded them, a tapestry woven from shared meals and laughter. But here, in their corner, the world faded. All Sarah felt was the thrum of her pulse, a nervous harmony that underscored the weight of her words. Jake sat cross-legged on the booth, his little hands clasped tightly, his eager eyes fixated on her. Max, a bit more apprehensive, shifted in his seat, darting glances between the veteran and Sarah, as if gauging how deep they were about to dive. Finding the right words felt like searching for a needle in a haystack. I had a dream once," she started, her voice trembling. "To be a singer, to feel what it means to change lives with a song." She looked at the veteran, who nodded encouragingly, connected by their silent understanding. "But dreams can be tricky. Life doesn't always go the way you plan." A slight lump formed in her throat, but she pressed on. "I lost my way after your dad after the accident. It knocked the breath out of me. I thought I had lost everything." The haze of memories flooded back, nights spent in tears, days of silence that echoed through their home. Jake leaned in, his innocent face full of concern. "But you're not lost now, right? You sang. You're amazing." His exuberance brought a warmth that countered the chill of vulnerability. Max's brow furrowed. "Mom, what changed?" His voice was soft, yet firm, demanding honesty. Tears threatened to spill, but Sarah swallowed hard. "Finding my voice again wasn't easy. I had to face doubts, fears, all that clutter in my mind. But your support helped me remember why I began singing at all. You both make me want to be better." She glanced at them, her heart swelling. The veteran interjected. "And that, Sarah, is the kind of courage that shapes not just your story, but your children's, too." Jake, bright-eyed and filled with encouragement, piped up, "Mom, can I sing with you next time?" She chuckled lightly, grateful for the lifeline he unknowingly offered. "Yes, one day. When you're ready." Max's eyes narrowed as he searched her face. "So, what's the thing we don't know? You said there's more to your story." A heavy silence filled the small space. Sarah felt a surge of heat beneath her skin, a reminder that deep conversations often carry with them echoes of unresolved things. I used to be afraid to share the pain. It felt too heavy, too hard. But maybe it's time to let go a little. To be honest. Even with you too." The veteran leaned forward, his voice low. "Sometimes, sharing our burdens lightens the load. You're not meant to carry it alone." Sarah took a deep breath, feeling the warmth of her boys anchoring her. "When I was younger, my parents had dreams for me too. They wanted me to be perfect, and I felt lost striving for that. When they passed, it shattered what little certainty I had left. It took years to unpack that grief. A moment of stillness fell over them, the air thick with unspoken emotions. All she could hear was her heartbeat echoing, while Jake's small hand found hers, squeezing it tight. Max followed suit, a beacon of strength beside her. "Mom, you kept trying. That's what matters," Jake murmured, tears flowed freely now, and she smiled through the emotion. "And I have to keep trying for you both. To be brave enough to express it all, even the messy parts." The veteran's eyes glimmered. "You've already taken the first step, Sarah. Recognizing your fears is where the healing begins." Just as relief washed over her, she felt a stirring moment, a tremor beneath the surface. She glanced at her children, her heart full of determination yet tinged with unease. What other stories lay buried, waiting to emerge? Their eyes looked up at her with a mixture of admiration and concern, a question lingering in the air. What would she reveal next, and how would it transform her journey? But even more pressing, could she truly face the depths of her pain and not falter? Would the answers she sought deepen the bond with her boys or unravel the very fabric they were weaving together? Sarah knew this chapter had just begun, but somewhere deep down, she felt a name waiting to rise from the shadows of her past. The moment hung heavy between them, thick with the weight of unsaid truths and shared memories. Sarah's heart raced, each thump echoing in her ears as she fought to hold the gaze of her sons. "Mom," Max said, with a quiet urgency that pulled at her heartstrings. "What is it?" "You promised I know," she whispered, her throat tight. It's hard to explain." She could feel the walls inching closer, the shadows of her past threatening to spill out into the light. The veteran, sensing her hesitation, leaned in. "Just take your time, Sarah. One step at a time. It's okay." She took a deep breath, focusing on the warmth of her son's hands holding hers. "When I was a little girl, music was my escape. It was where I felt free, where I could breathe without any pressure. But as I got older, I thought that wasn't enough. I wanted approval, validation. I got lost in that pursuit." Jake's brow was furrowed, a mixture of confusion and worry. "But how does that hurt you now?" "That desire turned into fear and it made me someone I wasn't. After I lost your dad, the music felt like it left with him. I was too scared to feel anything. I thought, if I couldn't be perfect, what was the point?" Her voice cracked, and she wiped an escaping tear. Max squeezed her hand tighter. "But it's okay to not be perfect, Mom. You're brave. You sing." A soft chuckle escaped her, laced with pride. "You're right, buddy. But it took me a long time to understand that it's okay to be vulnerable. To be broken. I needed to accept the struggles because only then could the music return." The veteran's gaze softened. "You're not just sharing your journey, Sarah, you're showing them the strength in vulnerability. It's a lesson more valuable than any perfect note." Jake grinned, borrowing a bit of that wisdom. "Can you sing for us now? Like a present. Or maybe a way to say you're okay?" She hesitated, but a spark ignited inside her. "Okay, just a bit." The diner hummed softly, the world swirling around them again. In this bubble of warmth and expectancy, she began to hum a simple tune, one that spilled from her heart, a melody of hope and love, pulling from the depths of her soul. The room grew quiet. The clinking of silverware faded, and heads turned. She looked at her sons, their faces illuminated with joy and admiration. There was a rawness to her voice, steeped in all the emotions she had carried. When she finished, the diners slowly broke into applause, not out of pity, but out of respect and connection. It felt like acceptance washing over her. Max beamed, a mix of pride and relief shining in his eyes. Jake joined in, clapping his small hands. "See, Mom. You did it. You're amazing." As the applause faded, the weight in the room shifted. Sarah felt more alive than ever, but a shadow lingered, a feeling that her story was just starting to unfold. An unspoken question hovered in her mind: was it really just about singing, or was there something more? Suddenly, the door swung open, and in walked a figure from her past. She froze, the air shifting around her as recognition washed over her. The name that had waited in the shadows felt like a ghost bringing a whirlwind of memories with it. Her heart raced anew, the melody of her song replaced by the chorus of memories she had thought long buried. How could she possibly face this now? And more importantly, what would it mean for the life she was starting to reclaim? The figure stood just inside the diner, a silhouette softened by the haze of memories. Sarah blinked, as if trying to will the vision away. But reality didn't bend to her desire. It was real. It was him. Sebastian. Her mind raced, a flurry of emotions crashing over her. 60 seconds felt like an eternity as he scanned the room, his gaze finally landing on her. That familiar, magnetic draw was suddenly suffocating. The clamor of the diner faded into a dull roar, leaving only the frantic beat of her heart. "Mom." Max's voice pierced the haze, pulling her back to the moment. She turned to see her sons, faces a mix of curiosity and concern. Just a minute, okay?" Her voice trembled slightly, barely more than a whisper. Sebastian walked closer, and with each step, a wave of nostalgia washed over her. They had shared dreams, laughter, and plans that never came to fruition. They had each been pillars for the other until life pulled them apart in ways she hadn't understood until now. "Sarah," he said softly, the name spilling from his lips like a forgotten melody. The room felt impossibly small as she stood. "What are you doing here?" Her tone was sharp, the years of hurt giving fuel to her defenses. "I heard about your performance," he replied, sincerity lighting his features. "You were incredible. I just wanted to see you." Her heart ached, memories flooding back, not just the good ones but the painful too. Moments of joy intertwined with grief, laughter painted over with the shadows of betrayal. "What did you think this was?" she asked, gesturing to the diner, her voice thick with unspent emotion. "A reunion? A chance to pick up where we left off?" "I'm not who you remember." "Maybe not," he admitted, "but we both experienced loss." He paused, the weight of his own regrets evident in his eyes. "I wish I had been there for you. For both of you." He motioned towards her sons, their eyes wide with confusion. "Max, always the one to break the tension," piped up. "Mom, who is this?" Sarah felt torn. A part of her longed to share this piece of her past with her sons, the other part wanted to shield them from the unresolved hurt. But Sebastian was standing there, vulnerable and earnest, and she couldn't ignore the depth of history that lay between them. "Sebastian was someone I knew a long time ago," she finally said, feeling the truth hang heavily in the air. "He was part of a life that feels so far away. Can I say hi?" "He looks friendly," Jake said innocently, tugging at Sarah's hand. For a brief moment, Sarah smiled at her boy's naivety. "It's complicated, honey," she replied, her heart tightening. Was she really going to let him in? "Complicated can be good," Sebastian interjected, his voice steady. "It means there's a chance for understanding. For healing." Healing. The word echoed in her mind, hanging thick with possibility. Maybe this moment, this confrontation, was part of her journey, a raw chance to heal old wounds, but the lingering question pulsed in her chest. Could she really allow the past back into her life? Suddenly, an unexpected warmth filled her. Somewhere in the distance, the sound of laughter and clinking glasses played a soft counterpoint to the tension. She glanced at her sons, their innocence a reminder of hope and new beginnings. "And what if I choose not to?" she countered softly, looking back into his eyes, searching for an answer that didn't escape her grasp. Just then, the door swung open again, and a few familiar faces from the diner turned to see who entered. It was a stranger, but their eyes were filled with recognition, eyes alight with shared stories. "Sarah." They called out, and she felt a shiver run down her spine. What would she do now? With Sebastian standing in front of her and old wounds stirred, how would this night unfold? And far beyond them, did she dare to hope that something beautiful could come from all this? The atmosphere in the diner shifted, every head turned as the newcomer stepped further inside. Sarah recognized the figure almost immediately, a friendly face she hadn't seen in years. It was Karen, an old friend from her college days, known for her unrelenting optimism and knack for caring. The kind of person who radiated warmth just by walking into a room. "Karen!" Sarah exclaimed, caught off guard by the sudden wave of nostalgia crashing over her. She rushed forward, relief flooding her as she pulled her friend into a tight embrace. "What are you doing here?" Sarah asked, her voice muffled in the embrace. "I heard there was a gathering, wanted to come support everyone. And then, well, I saw you." Karen stepped back, eyes sparkling with genuine joy. But then her gaze shifted past Sarah, landing on Sebastian. "Oh, Sarah's got a lot going on," Sebastian said, his voice steady but a hint of unease crept in. "Excuse me," Max interrupted, tugging on Sarah's sleeve. "Mom, can I say hi to her?" "Of course, sweetie," Sarah said, noting the way her heart swelled at her son's curiosity. She glanced back at Karen, who knelt to meet Max and Jake's eager faces. Sebastian stood there, watching, his emotions churning visibly as he witnessed the warm reunion. The distance of years seemed to evaporate, but uncertainty lingered like a thick fog, leaving Sarah torn between two worlds, her existing life, shaped by moments of solitude and resilience, and the fragments of yesterday that Sebastian represented. "Karen, this is Sebastian," she introduced softly, wishing the moment could have been less awkward. "He was someone important to me." To her surprise, Karen's face lit up. "Wow, it's really you. I've heard about you, but it's nice to finally meet the man behind the stories." Sebastian's posture shifted slightly, as if unsure how to respond. "I didn't expect to run into old friends tonight," he finally managed, sincerity pouring from him. "Life is full of surprises," Karen said with that trademark smile. "But here we are." "Has it really been over 10 years? "Yes," Sarah whispered, her throat tight. Those years had been filled with dreams that faded and promises that fell apart, and yet amid it all, she felt a strange spark of hope ignite as she watched her sons connect with Karen. "Let's grab a table and catch up," Karen suggested, leading the boys to the booth they used to claim as their own in younger days. As the boys slid into the seats, Sarah hesitated, her eyes locking with Sebastian's. The unspoken words hung between them, heavy and charged. Could she risk diving into this tangled history? "Do you really think we can find healing?" she asked, her voice trembling again. "After everything, is that even possible?" "After loss, it's the only thing we can hope for," he replied earnestly, his gaze sincere. Just then, the atmosphere in the diner buzzed with stirring conversations, laughter, and the rich smell of coffee brewing. And in the midst of it all, Sarah felt herself straddling two worlds, the life she had constructed for herself and the echoes of the past pulling her soul back. Max's laughter beckoned her over to the table, where Karen was animatedly retelling an old story about their college days. It was comforting, the familiarity, yet daunting too. Could she allow her heart to re-engage, to let Sebastian back into her life? Was he the catalyst for healing or just another reminder of the wounds she carried? "Sarah, come join us," Karen called. And something deep within shot through her a fleeting whisper that perhaps connections weren't always a curse. Perhaps they were an opportunity to rediscover joy. The moment stretched out with her heart pounding in her chest. And outside, visible through the diner's glass walls, a storm brewed on the horizon, dark and ominous, a reflection of the turmoil inside her. Feeling the weight of choice settle heavily in her bones, she stood. What would she do? As she approached the table, she could feel the shifting tides of her past and future swirling around her, ready to intertwine like two currents in an unfathomable sea. "Mom, tell us a story about when you and Karen met," Jake encouraged, eyes bright with innocence. And at that moment, just as she was about to share, another figure walked through the door, one she hadn't expected in her wildest dreams. Who else might reshape her journey tonight? Sarah's breath caught in her throat as the new figure walked in, a familiar silhouette framed by the stormy night outside. It was Grace, her childhood best friend, the one who had mysteriously drifted away years ago. The diner buzzed with life around her, but in that instant, everything faded. The chatter dimmed, the clinking of silverware softened, and Sarah could hear only the rapid beat of her own heart. "Grace?" she whispered, half expecting to wake up from what felt like a dream. The years had been kind to Grace, her smile was the same, yet there was something different, perhaps a deeper confidence in her stance. "Sarah! Oh my gosh!" Grace exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with surprise and joy as she rushed toward them. The embrace they shared was warm, shared laughter echoing around them, a small bubble of happiness amidst the diner's bustling atmosphere. "You have no idea how much I've missed you," Grace continued, stepping back to look at Sarah's face, her expression filled with genuine love. Sarah's voice shook slightly, "I can't believe you're here. It's been forever." Karen, watching from the table, smiled broadly. "Seems like tonight is a reunion for everyone." As Grace turned to Sebastian, the room took on a different pulse. "And you must be Sebastian." "I've heard stories," she grinned, extending her hand. "I'm Grace, Sarah's other half back in the day." Sebastian relaxed under Grace's cheerful demeanor. "Nice to finally meet you. Are you all right?" Grace asked, her perceptive gaze settling on Sarah. "You look a bit overwhelmed." "Just a lot happening tonight," Sarah replied, her heart racing. "But good things, I think." The boys chimed in, animatedly asking Grace questions about her life. Among the boisterous exchanges, Sarah felt her old self re-emerging, laughter bubbling in her throat like a long-lost friend. It was a jarring contrast to the heaviness that often weighed her down. She hadn't realized how lifeless she had felt until this moment. A reunion was stirring something within her that she thought had been extinguished. "Why don't we order some fries and celebrate?" Karen suggested, her energy infectious. As the waitress approached their table, Sarah caught a glimpse of familiarity. The woman had been in the diner once or twice before, never lingering too long but always providing a kind smile when things felt hard. Tonight, as Sarah looked up, the waitress caught her eye and held it for a second longer. It was a soft, understanding glance, and it gave Sarah an unexpected jolt of reassurance. "What will it be, ladies?" the waitress asked, the warmth in her voice grasping Sarah's attention. Grace ordered first, and as she spoke, the atmosphere around them became thicker with connection. Their shared memories began to flow, replacing the missing years with laughter and shared tears. The sound of their voices wrapped around Sarah like a comforting blanket, but beneath her heartwarming nostalgia, an unsettling pull began to surface again, the question of whether she could allow these connections back into her life. With the shadows of the storm growing ever closer, she felt the weight shift. It was more than just the past resurfacing, it was a moment that screamed for resolution. Sometimes all it takes is a small act of kindness to change everything. Sebastian finally spoke, his voice low but full of meaning. "Maybe tonight is telling us something." Just then, the lights flickered, and the power in the diner briefly dimmed, igniting an undercurrent of tension. Sarah instinctively reached for the table to steady herself. "Did you feel that?" she whispered to Sebastian, her heart racing as the moment seemed to hang in the air like the storm clouding the skies outside. "Yeah," he replied, intense focus in his eyes. "Maybe we're all meant to be here tonight." As the waitress came back with their order, Sarah's chest tightened. They might be sharing laughter and memories, but she knew that buried feelings and past shadows loomed just beneath the surface like a storm ready to break. When she caught Grace observing her with a knowing look, Sarah realized that tonight, the winds of change were her closest allies. Could she truly embrace the happiness swirling around her, or would the tempest within drown out these fleeting moments of joy? With resolve building inside her, she took a deep breath, prepared to not only share her story but confront the currents of the past in a way she hadn't allowed herself before. Outside, rain began to sprinkle the pavement, threatening a downpour. And she couldn't help but wonder, what other unexpected blessings awaited them as the storm raged on. The warm, greasy scent of fries filled the diner as the waitress set the steaming plate down in front of them. Sarah's heart fluttered at the sight. It felt like a simple gesture, but somehow, it grounded her. The weight of the moment pressed down, yet there was an electric thrill in finally being reunited with Grace. As they dug into the fries, their laughter seemed to push the storm outside further away. "So, what is this mysterious life you've been living?" Sarah asked, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. Grace dove into tales of her adventures, each story a splash of color that brightened the already vibrant atmosphere. "We went camping last summer, and I swear, we almost got eaten by bears." Grace laughed, dramatizing the tale, and Sarah couldn't help but chuckle along. In that moment, years melted away, and Sarah remembered the carefree girl she once was, the girl who would have leaped at the chance to have adventures just like Grace. "What about you, Sarah? What have you been up to?" Grace turned the spotlight back on her. The question hung in the air like a storm cloud. Sarah hesitated, the joy flickering momentarily. Did she really want to share her struggles? The loneliness that had crept into her life like the storm outside? Instead, she smiled tightly. "Oh, work, life, the usual," she replied, her voice soft. Sebastian noticed her tension, subtly placing his hand on her back, maybe a silent cue of support. "Life can get heavy sometimes," Grace said, and Sarah saw a flicker of understanding in her eyes. "But you can always reach out. I'm here now." The sincerity of Grace's words pierced through Sarah's defenses. It was as if a dam was breaking, and she felt her emotions swimming to the surface. The shadows she'd kept hidden were whispering their secrets, ready to spill. I've had a rough time adjusting since you left," Sarah confessed, her voice trembling dangerously close to a whisper. It felt like everything changed overnight. The warmth in Grace's gaze softened even more. "I'm so sorry, Sarah. I never wanted to leave like that. I thought of you every day." "Really?" Sarah blinked, stunned. The years of hurt and confusion began to unravel, weaving together fragments of their past. "Of course. You were my best friend. I wish I could have been there for you," Grace said, and the honesty of her tone was like a balm on Sarah's weary heart. Just as Sarah opened her mouth to respond, the lights flickered again, this time plunging the diner into darkness for a heartbeat. Gasps erupted from the other patrons, but the moment passed, and the lights came back on, illuminating their small table. Chaos resumed around them, but for Sarah, it felt as if time had slowed. She locked eyes with Grace, feeling the room pulse with something deeper, something unacknowledged. The storm outside raged harder, pouring rain against the window like a desperate plea. "I've held on to too much," Sarah finally said, the words pouring out. "I want to believe I can move forward, but it's so hard." Grace reached across the table, capturing Sarah's hands in her own. "You don't have to face it alone anymore. We can do this together." The powerful connection between them seemed to create a new path forward. Sarah could feel the warmth of hope blossoming in her chest, like the first hint of light after a long, cold night, but just then, a loud bang crashed outside, rattling the diner. It was no longer a gentle rain but a full-blown storm, wild and insistent. Everyone's laughter quieted, replaced by murmurs of concern. "What was that?" Karen asked, her eyes wide. Sarah could feel her heart race again, this time for a wholly different reason. "Maybe it's time we faced the storm together," Sebastian said quietly, yet with a strength that resonated in Sarah's core. It was more than just rain. It was a challenge, a sign that change was brewing. As the storm raged, she understood that embracing both her past and present could lead to a healing light. But the waves of uncertainty churned within her, mingling with the hope. Was she truly ready to confront everything that lay ahead? With renewed resolve, she turned to Grace, who wore an encouraging smile, and to Sebastian, whose hand remained steady on her back. As they gathered their strength amid the swirling tempest, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that tonight was just the beginning. What awaited them on the other side of the storm? Could they weather it together, or would the truths they uncovered tear them apart? Outside the diner, the storm intensified, pounding against the windows as if urging Sarah to take the leap and confront her past. She felt a familiar weight pressing on her chest, but now also a flicker of courage igniting within her. She looked at her two boys across the table, their faces lit with excitement and love, and at Grace, whose eyes sparkled with understanding and warmth. In that moment, Sarah knew she had to share her truth with the people she cared about most. "Okay, I want to talk," she said, her heart racing as her voice broke through the clamor of the diner. "I can't keep holding everything inside any longer." The chatter around them dulled, every set of eyes turning toward her. A collective spark of interest and concern glinted in the air. Sebastian leaned forward, nodding, his expression encouraging. "You got this, Sarah. One step at a time." Taking a deep breath, she began. "After your dad died, I thought I would drown in my grief. I felt lost and alone. I didn't know how to process everything, and music, it was like a light dimming inside me." She met the gaze of her boys, who were listening intently. "I didn't want you to see me crumble. I thought I had to be strong for both of you." Tears welled in her eyes as memories flooded back, a flood of sleepless nights, days spent in silence, and struggling to make ends meet while navigating the tidal waves of loss. "But strength doesn't mean hiding. It's about being real, even when it's hard," she continued, her voice steadier now. The flicker of understanding crossed Max's face, his brow furrowing. "But Mom, you sing now. You found your voice again. Doesn't that mean you aren't lost anymore?" A smile broke through her tears. "Yes, and I couldn't have done it without you too. You both pulled me up when I was sinking. I started singing again because I realized I didn't want to just survive, I wanted to live. You reminded me of what happiness felt like." The storm outside roared, but inside, she felt the warmth of connection wrap around her like a favorite blanket. "And to do that, I have to let others in. Especially those who care," she said, glancing at Grace and Sebastian, who listened intently. "I realize I was scared to reconnect, to let anyone see my broken pieces." Grace nodded, her eyes glowing. "We're all human. We're all broken in one way or another. But it's those cracks that let the light in." Sarah looked at each face around the table, feeling their support swirling around her like a protective cocoon. "I want to share all the messy parts with you all. I want to be whole again." She turned to Sebastian, her heart flickering. "Even if it means confronting my past." "Facing our past doesn't mean we're doing it alone," Sebastian replied, his voice smooth yet firm. "We're here now, and we'll be with you every step of the way." As the rain hammered against the diner, something in Sarah shifted. The whispers of her past, the burdens she'd carried for far too long, felt lighter. In this moment of vulnerability, she realized the power of community, the love that thrived despite fear. Jake smiled brightly, his small hand reaching out to grip hers. "We're a team, Mom. We can do anything together." Max nodded vigorously, giving her a spark of confidence. "Yeah. And remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about trying." Just like that, the storm outside began to ease, the torrential downpour morphing into a soft, steady drizzle. At that moment, Sarah felt the heaviness that had become her constant companion begin to lift. It didn't disappear completely, but she knew she wasn't facing it alone anymore. In the diner, they shared stories and laughter, the connection blooming like flowers breaking through snow in spring. Each laugh seemed to dissolve another layer of fear, and Sarah found herself enveloped in the love surrounding her, a love that would fuel her journey going forward. As the final curtain fell on the night, Sarah glanced out the diner window at glimmers of light peeking through the dissipating clouds. Hope and possibility lay stretched before them like a new dawn. She turned back to her true family, the boys, Grace, and Sebastian, and smiled through her tears. This was just the beginning. She could feel the transformation within her, not only as an individual but as a mother, as a friend, and as a woman. With conviction pressing in her heart, she spoke into that night, "Let us keep sharing. Let us keep growing together. And as the diners around them resumed their chatter, Sarah felt the music of her life sing louder than ever, ready to embrace whatever came next. Now, this is your moment to join this incredible journey. You need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive stories that will inspire you. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and ensure more wonderful content comes your way. Remember to comment your reactions and feelings about this powerful transformation, and don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this inspiring journey. Your support makes all the difference.